When I was 15, my parents left for a family wedding in another city. They were supposed to be gone until after midnight, which meant I would have the entire house to myself for nearly 8 hours. At first, it felt amazing. No parents, no rules, no one telling me to get off my laptop. I ordered food, watched videos, and spent most of the evening in the living room. Nothing felt unusual. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet. Most houses had already turned off their lights. Every now and then, a car would pass by, but otherwise, it was one of those nights where everything seemed strangely still. Around 10:30 p.m., I got up to get a drink from the kitchen. That's when I heard it. A single sound, thump. I stopped walking. The sound had come from upstairs. I listened for a few seconds. Nothing. I laughed to myself. Old houses make noises all the time. Wood expands, pipes creak, furniture settles. I grabbed my drink and started heading back to the living room. Then I heard it again. Thump. This time I froze. It sounded exactly like a footstep. Not a creak, not a crack. A footstep, directly above me. For a moment, I just stood there, staring at the ceiling. The second floor should have been completely empty. I was the only person in the house. At least, I thought I was. I slowly walked toward the staircase and looked up. The hallway upstairs was dark. No movement, no shadows. Nothing. I told myself I was being paranoid. After all, I had been watching horror videos all evening. My brain was probably playing tricks on me. So I went back to the living room. About 10 minutes later, I heard it again. This time, there was no mistaking it. Step. A pause. Step. A pause. Step. The sound moved across the hallway upstairs. Slow, heavy, deliberate, like someone was walking from one room to another. My stomach dropped. I muted my TV and listened. The footsteps continued. Step, step, step. Then they stopped. The silence that followed felt worse. At least when I could hear the footsteps, I knew where they were. Now I had no idea. I grabbed my phone and called my dad. He answered immediately. I tried to sound calm, but I could hear my own voice shaking. "Someone's upstairs." My dad told me to lock my bedroom door and stay there until they got home. So that's exactly what I did. I ran upstairs, entered my room, locked the door, and sat on the floor with my phone in my hand. For the next 20 minutes, I heard movement. Not constant movement, just enough to make me terrified. A few footsteps, then silence. A soft bump, then silence again. At one point, it sounded like something was dragged across the floor in my parents' room. The worst part was that it never sounded rushed. Whoever or whatever it was didn't seem scared. It sounded comfortable, like it belonged there. Around 11:15 p.m., I heard something that made my blood run cold. A door opened, slowly. The sound echoed through the hallway. Then came footsteps again. This time, they were closer, much closer. I could actually tell where they were. They had reached the hallway outside my room. I stopped breathing. The footsteps stopped. Everything became completely silent. I sat there staring at my bedroom door, waiting. A minute passed, then two. Nothing happened. Eventually, the footsteps started moving away. I nearly collapsed from relief. Finally, around midnight, I saw headlights shine through my window. My parents had arrived home. The moment their car entered the driveway, every sound inside the house stopped. Completely. No footsteps, no bumps, nothing. My dad came inside and immediately searched the house. Every room, every closet, every bathroom, the attic, the storage room, everything. Nobody was there. The front door was locked. The back door was locked. Every window was locked from the inside. Nothing was missing. No signs of forced entry. No footprints. No evidence that anyone had ever been there. My parents assumed I had imagined it. Honestly, after a few days, I started wondering if they were right. Until a week later. Our next door neighbor came over while my dad was outside. During their conversation, he casually mentioned something strange. He said that on the night of the wedding, he had looked out his window around 11 p.m. He saw someone standing in the upstairs hallway of our house, just standing there, motionless. The neighbor assumed it was me, but it wasn't. At 11 p.m., I was locked inside my bedroom, and according to him, whoever was standing in that hallway wasn't moving at all, just watching through the window, waiting. To this day, I still don't know what was making those footsteps. But sometimes, when I'm home alone at night, I remember one detail that still bothers me. The hallway where the neighbor saw that figure is carpeted. Carpet doesn't make footstep sounds. A few years ago, my parents left for a weekend trip, leaving me home alone. Normally, I loved having the house to myself. I could stay up late, play games, and watch whatever I wanted. Around 12:40 a.m., I was lying on the couch watching videos when my phone suddenly vibrated. Motion detected. Backyard camera. I opened the security app expecting to see a cat or maybe a neighbor's dog. Instead, I saw a man standing near the back fence. He wasn't climbing over. He wasn't walking around. He was simply standing there, looking directly into the camera. At first, I thought the image had frozen, but the timestamp was still moving. The man just wasn't. I refreshed the feed several times. Every time, he was still there. Same position. Same stare. I locked every door in the house and kept watching. The longer I looked at him, the more uncomfortable I became. Most people can't stand perfectly still for very long. This guy looked like a statue. Eventually, I called the police. While waiting, I kept checking the camera. For several minutes, nothing changed. Then suddenly, the man moved. One step, then another, then another, slowly walking toward the house. I could feel my heart pounding. As he got closer, I could make out a dark hoodie and dark clothing, but I couldn't see his face. Then, the screen froze for a moment. When the image refreshed, he was gone. Completely gone. The backyard was empty. The police arrived about 10 minutes later and searched the area. They found nothing. No sign of the man anywhere. I thought that would be the end of it. Then one of the officers showed me something from the camera's recording history. The camera records continuously. The motion alert only activates when movement is detected. We scrolled backward through the footage. 11 p.m. The man was there. 10 p.m. The man was there. 9 p.m. The man was there. For more than 3 hours, he had been standing in the exact same spot behind my house, completely motionless. The motion alert only triggered because he finally started walking toward the house. Nobody ever identified him. Nobody ever figured out why he was there. But sometimes I still think about one question. If he had been watching the house for over 3 hours, what was he waiting for? Last summer, my parents left town for the weekend to visit relatives. I stayed home because I had exams coming up. At first, I was excited. The entire house to myself. No interruptions, no rules, just peace and quiet. By around 11 p.m., I was sitting in my room watching videos when I heard a loud sound downstairs. It sounded like something had fallen over. I paused my video and listened. Nothing. The house became completely silent. I assumed something had simply fallen off a shelf. Old houses make random noises all the time, so I ignored it. A few minutes later, I heard another sound. This time it was much clearer. A cabinet door slamming shut. I immediately sat up. That wasn't normal. I removed my headphones and listened carefully. Silence. I waited nearly a minute. Nothing. Eventually, I convinced myself I was imagining things. Then my phone vibrated. A notification from our security camera. Motion detected, front door. I opened the app. Nobody was there. The porch was empty. The driveway was empty. I refreshed the feed. Still nothing. Weird. I locked my bedroom door anyway, just in case. Around midnight, I started hearing noises again. Very small noises. A drawer opening. A faint thump. Something dragging across the floor. The sounds were coming from downstairs, slowly moving from room to room. At this point, I was genuinely scared. I called my dad. He told me to stay in my room and call the police if I thought someone was inside. I sat on my bed staring at the door, listening. For the next 20 minutes, the noises continued. Then suddenly they stopped. The silence felt wrong, almost worse than the sounds. I checked my phone, no new notifications, no movement outside, nothing. Eventually, exhaustion caught up with me. At some point during the night, I fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up around 8 a.m. Everything seemed normal until I opened my bedroom door. The hallway looked fine, but when I went downstairs, my stomach dropped. The entire house had been trashed. Kitchen drawers pulled open, chairs knocked over, cabinets hanging open, books scattered across the floor, couch cushions ripped off and thrown everywhere. It looked like someone had searched every inch of the house. My hands started shaking. I immediately called my parents, then the police. Officers arrived and searched the property. The strange thing was that nothing valuable had been stolen. The TV was still there. The laptops were still there. Cash was still there. Everything was untouched. Whoever entered the house hadn't come to rob us. They had come looking for something or someone. The police found signs of forced entry through a back window, but they couldn't identify a suspect. No fingerprints, no useful evidence, nothing. For weeks, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Then, about a month later, something happened. I was helping clean up the garage when I found an old storage box. Inside were dozens of family photographs. Most were normal: birthday parties, vacations, school events. Then I noticed one photo I had never seen before. It was taken years earlier at a local fair. In the background, standing several feet behind my family, was a man, watching the camera, watching us. At first I thought it was a coincidence, until I found another photo. Different year, different location, same man, standing in the background, looking directly toward us. I showed the photos to my parents. Neither of them recognized him. The police couldn't identify him either. Maybe it was just an unlucky coincidence. Maybe it was the same person who entered our house. Or maybe it wasn't. But sometimes I still think about one detail. Whoever trashed the house opened almost every drawer, every cabinet, every closet, except one: the closet in my bedroom, the room where I had been sleeping. That door was still closed, almost as if they already knew I was there.